Welcome to the Non Superheroes Gets Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be present for our kids, and combat generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I'm Sean Laurie. Hope you guys are doing great today. Hopefully, everyone had an amazing weekend. Man, like always, right before we start, make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. I appreciate the support, guys. Honestly, I do. So, with that being said, guys, I actually wanted to do an episode on a movie, right? I'm not obviously, this is not no we call that movie review podcast or nothing like that, but it was something that really stuck out to me, and that is Mufasa. Right, I don't know if you got a chance to check it out, the Mufasa Lion King movie. Great movie, at least to me. I enjoy the movie. My kids enjoy the movie. They've been singing some of those songs. They've been getting stuck in my head. I like I said, I really enjoyed it. But uh, it's a lot of things that pertain when it comes to us as fathers and as men that I want to dive into. Now, spoiler alert, I'm gonna do my best not to, give too much if you haven't seen it, but just enough for you to, I guess, get my point across, right? So, um, I'll start off like this. So everybody knows Mufasa, right, as the king, right, the strong, wise father, who taught Simba, about life, legacy, leadership. But in this new movie, right, it shows a little bit more, the things that we didn't know, obviously, right. We didn't see some of the pain, the rejection, the loss, and how those experiences shaped, Mufasa as a king, as a father. So that's why I want to kind of unpack for you guys a little bit of that. What stuck out to me. So yeah, I'm gonna do my best not to spoil the movie for y'all, because I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to spoil it, but um, Mufasa, he basically uh was a cub with no name, with no family. Well, no, he did have his name, but no family, and basically, he had to go into a whole new world, right, where um, he didn't know anyone, right? He had to be accepted, um, and so I say that because he didn't start off as, this respected, this proven, leader, right, and things like that, and that's how it is for us as well, right? We're not, a lot of times we don't come from the best upbringings. We don't come from the greatest situation, right? Shoot, our fathers might not have been there. Our fathers might have, you know, uh, uh, maybe, I don't know, they just wasn't there. They was locked up or whatever the case is, right? But we had to kind of figure certain things out on our own, or with the people that was around us, and that's what happened with Mufasa. Um, and that's why, I feel like as men we can relate to that as well. Where growing up, some of us didn't really have a clear identity, right? Didn't really have a direction growing up, so we're looking to whatever positive male figure we can go to, right? And so I remember with, Mufasa, um, as he was, again, I'm trying not to spoil it too much for y'all, but when he was into when he got accepted basically into was it what's the dude's name? Scar. I'm gonna just call him Scar. I can't think of his name right now. But his family, I forgot his actual name before he went by Scar. But he got accepted by his, or they took him in, right? But even then, like, Scar's dad never accepted him, right? Always looked it down upon him. Um, but it's just interesting because before, Mufasa taught Simba, right, all those life lessons and all those different things, he had to find out who he was first. And I feel like that's how it is for us as fathers as well, right? Like, obviously we want to raise our kids. We want our kids to be the best versions of themselves. We for sure want them to be way better than us, right? That should be the goal, at least. So it's one of those things where I think at times that we don't really dig deep inside to figure out, okay, who are we, right? And what are we trying to become? What does that look like for us? So it's just kind of cool to kind of see that, you know. But yeah, man, the movie, the movie shows him being tested, facing, different adversity, betrayal, having to choose, integrity over comfort, right? And so it's just different things like that, man, where I feel like, man, as men, we get tested all the time. We get tested daily, right? Um, and a lot of times we're silent about it. We get uh, tested, and nobody even knows what's going on. But in that test, right, that's where the growth does happen, right? But there's a lot of ups and downs that come with it. And so when I look at it, because with Mufasa, he was trying his best to be loyal, trying to be best to be accepted, to Scar's family. And no matter what he did, you know, Scar's family. So again, spoiler alert, but Scar's family was royalty, right? So Scar was supposed to be the king for another for his land wherever they lived at. He's supposed to be king, and so at the end of the day, Mufasa was considered an outsider, right? So he wasn't royalty, right? Matter of fact, um, Mufasa, he told Scar's dad, basically he told Mufasa, "Hey, you go with the girls, you go with the ladies, you stay over there. I don't even want you near me, right?" And if you know anything about the lions, right, the female lions are the one that actually hunt, right? And so the fathers more so protect, but they just kind of be chilling. And so I remember Scar just asking, like, "Dang, Dad, like, like Mufasa's getting all these tools and things like that, and we just kind of chilling here." And basically, at the end of the day, um, when I watched it, I looked at it like, this is why Scar was the way he was, right? This is why he was entitled. This is why he felt some type of way that he felt when it came to Mufasa. Because there's so many different dynamics that played a part in why Scar acted the way he did, even before obviously he killed Mufasa. We all know that, but before all that, like that resentment and stuff was a lot of stuff came from he felt he wasn't good enough for his dad, right? But then I looked when I watched that movie, his dad low key was a coward to me. His dad was scary. His dad wasn't really a great leader. His dad more so just was focused on this is my status and that's good enough, instead of really putting the work in, which I think is very interesting. Just as men, as fathers, right? We got to, whatever we're trying to do, accomplish, whatever we want our kids to accomplish, we have to help them, but we have to also make sure we're putting the work in too, right? Like just as much as, we wouldn't be proud of our kids getting straight A's and things like that, but we have to work with them. At least we should be, right? We should be, hey, you know what? I'm going to read with you. Hey, I'm going to go over, algebra with you, right? I'm gonna break this down with you. I'm gonna teach you credit scores. I'm gonna teach you different life lessons to help you, right? So we got to put in work as fathers to help them be the best version of themselves. And so, at least in the movie, right, Mufasa's dad, I'm sorry, not Mufasa's dad, Scar's dad wasn't necessarily putting the work in. With Scar was just more so like, hey, this is your birthright, so at the end of the day, that should be good enough. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, as men, you know, how do you respond when the world tells you you're not good enough, right? When you're overlooked, because like I said, Mufasa didn't become the king by chance, right? Honestly, it was through his struggles because of the other animal kingdom being able to relate to what he went through, right? And so, and seeing what he was doing and how he was leading, and so I look at that because I'm like, man, this is why Mufasa was the way with Simba. This is why he was stern but loving, because of what he went through, all the different adversities he went through. This is why he was so overprotective, because you lose your loved ones and you go to basically adopted family, you're going to be that much more overprotective. You know what I mean? And um, I just look at like how many of us has experienced some type of loss or danger, and knew the cost of being unprepared, right? And that's what Mufasa dealt with, and I think that's what many of us have dealt with. And so we're doing our best as fathers to make sure our kids are prepared. Like, man, you know what? I dealt with this situation, man. You know what? I know what it is to be locked up. I know what it is to be forced to do certain things for money. I know how it is to be, to be fatherless. I know how it is to have a part-time father. I know how it is to have a father that's there but not present, right? And so all these different things that we deal with, right? We end up using that and hopefully using that to prepare us to be the best version of ourselves, right? But that's another thing that's fascinating too. To go back to the Mufasa, um, Mufasa not only was raising Simba right when he was young, but also raising a future king and what that king looked like, right? Because remember, Simba was really, I'm sorry, not Simba, Mufasa in the first Lion King, right? Mufasa was really like, he was not knowing to play with. Like people knew, like he was really in the trenches with it. He wasn't just over here. Hey, I'm gonna sit back, let the girl lions just chill out. Like he was doing a little bit of everything. But then when you see how he grew up, it makes sense. And he was raising Simba to be the same way, right? Before he died. So I just thought that was like interesting, just with all that. And then something that stuck out to me was I remember um Mufasa talking to I do not remember Simba's mom. So y'all that know, y'all probably, correct me. I don't know her name, but I remember um Mufasa not feeling like he's good enough, and he's not even supposed to be in the position he's supposed to be in, right? And he felt like he owed Scar for everything that Scar did for him, right? And at the end of the day, he wasn't royalty, like he wasn't quote unquote qualified for certain things, right? And so I remember in the movie, uh, Mufasa's ended up being his lady. She just said, "How you know his journey, basically? How you know like his plan for you was more so to save you, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're in debt to him. That doesn't mean that that's all you are is just some person that was just lucky to be saved. But what if he was supposed to save you because you had a greater purpose?" And so that really stuck out to me because so many times, we deal with situations that come up that we maybe didn't want, that we didn't expect, and we're questioning why, or we feeling dead, or we're just wondering, why is this happening, right? Why am I dealing with um, this type of person? Maybe maybe having baby mama drama, maybe having other issues with family, whatever the case is, right? Let's just use the example for the baby mama stuff. How for you it was like, hey, why am I dealing with this? And maybe it's because you're supposed to be teaching your kids something, right? Man, why am I, why is it that my kid's mom is throwing dirt on my name? Maybe it's because at the end of the day, you have to set that example. They never seen, a man that's maybe not bitter before, or not mad or something like that, right? They're like, dang, you know what? Mom or whoever keeps throwing dirt on my dad's name, and yet he keeps shining, he keeps showing that he's opposite of what they're doing, right? You don't know the impact that has. um and so yeah, man, I know I'm mixing both parts in when it comes to, like I said, the movie itself and then just real life situations. But that's honestly, that movie really, really has so many key points. I definitely encourage y'all to check it out. But even even with Scar's betrayal, right? It hits harder when like the shared history. When you see the movie, like you're like, dang, okay, this is like, because Scar got trapped in the comparison game, right? He got caught in the comparison game and he started having resentment, right? Instead of, how many times have we maybe compared, right? Instead of, man, okay, what can I learn from this? Okay, what can I do? Like, man, that was for them. Now, what is for me? Right? Instead of looking at it like that, we're more so comparing. We're more so uh, maybe saying like, this is what I should have, or this is the life I should have chose. But the great thing is, like I always tell my kids, life is about choices, right? And so whatever we choose, like that's basic for wherever action is a reaction. So at the end of the day, okay, if this is what we chose, what's next, right? Now we have to accept that. Like, what's next for us, and how can we go about it? Instead of, dang, I chose this. I'm mad that I had a child with this chick when I could have had a child with this chick. It's like, well, okay. At the end of the day, not what you chose, right? So this is your situation now. So how can you be the best father you can be, and how can you resolve certain issues? Sometimes it's not as easy as a conversation. Obviously, I know plenty of good fathers that gotta deal with the courts and deal with all the just craziness that comes with just being able to see their kids. So there's a lot of good fathers, unfortunately, that have to deal with those crazy situations. And so I say through all those uh, obstacles, to stay positive. Stay positive. Surround yourself with the correct support. Surround yourself with people that's going to also hold you accountable and be like, dang, okay, what are you doing, right? And when you're down on yourself, like how Mufasa was down, right, that you have someone that really believes in you and knows, like, what are you talking about? Like, no, you're going to get through this. No, this situation is bigger than what's in store for you. Not to get, I guess, too biblical with y'all, but that's how I looked at it as well. It was like, dang, like Mufasa went through all these things where he was at the bottom of the bottom to end up being the king. And even when he was being a king, he didn't want to accept it. Like, no, like, man, why? No one should be king. I'm not king. Like, I didn't ask for this. I'm not royalty. And at the end of the day, it was basically pointed out like this is bigger than what it is. Like, this is what you was called for. And so at the end of the day, no matter the BS that we deal with, like you was called to be whoever's father, right? You was called to be the man that you are. You was called to be a leader. You was called to be that example. You was called to be that motivation for somebody. So don't downplay what you're supposed to be, because that's what Mufasa at times was doing, and he had to finally accept it. And so I challenge anyone that's watching or listening: don't downplay like the impact that you are for somebody, right? Like there's someone out there that's looking at you. You might be like, "Dang, it's hard, for me to do all these different things with my kids, and I wish I had this, I wish I had more, I wish I could take them here, take them there." And someone's looking at you and like, "Man, you're doing it." Right? Like, I know you work 10 hours a day, but yeah, you still, when you get home, you're making time for your kids. You're making time for your family. Like, that's amazing. So there's someone out there that's looking at you and saying, you're amazing. Right. And so I just wanted to encourage you in that as well. Um, but just be mindful, just be mindful of all of that, right? Be mindful of this is just part of your story, right? And sometimes things might not make sense right away, but over time, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, it's going to open itself up. But yeah, man, I mean, like I said, that movie Mufasa, like I said, I think it's on Disney Plus now. But yeah, it just highlights just a strength that didn't come from privilege. Honestly, it came from probably pain and purpose, right? Which is very ironic because that's how a lot of times we grow through situations, right? It's pain and our purpose. It and sometimes it's not as we try to make it bigger than what it is. Maybe your purpose is just to be the best father you could be. Maybe your purpose is to be the best leader you can be, right? Maybe it's not for you to, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be owning um, 15 different houses, be it to rent it out, be it to flip this home here. Maybe that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe that's not what your story's supposed to be. Maybe your story is supposed to help your kids get to the next level, whatever that next level is. So you're either becoming a king through your pain, or you let your pain keep you from your crown, right? I actually like that. Let me say that again. So you're either becoming a king through the pain, or you're letting your pain keep you from your crown. And so Mufasa basically used that pain, use his purpose, use that adversity so he can get that crown. And that goes for us as well. That goes for us as men. That goes for us as fathers. You guys are all kings. You guys are all royalty, right? And so, you know, um, yeah, man. Like I said, that I don't know. I just really, really, really enjoy that movie so much. I definitely encourage y'all to check it out. Because at least for me, it was something that really stuck out. Really, really hit so many different key points because like even when he lost his mother, for whatever reason, he never like she never, even though she was gone, she never like gave up on him. She was still there. And I know many of us as well, um, right, that didn't have fathers. Our mothers were a huge part of our lives, um, and was constantly rooting for us, constantly helping us, constantly encouraging us, um, and so um, yeah, man. Like I said, I can't highlight enough how dope that movie is. For at least for me and my kids, I definitely encourage you, and I'm curious too to see what you guys got out of it because it's something that I didn't think at first that was gonna have so many different deep messages, but for me, like it was it was just something that I feel like we could relate to as men and as fathers, and just the acceptance too. Like I said, the acceptance that Scar kept trying to get from his dad, the acceptance he was trying to get from his mom. Um, and his mom loved him, but because his dad was keeping him away from his mom a lot of times, they didn't get to grow that bond, right? And I think that also highlights too, though, why it's so important for us to be able if we're blessed enough and fortunate enough to be to have both parents. We need it for different things, Um, it's a yin and yang. You know, I I don't think a child just needs to have their mother, and I don't think a child just needs to have their father. I think it's both. And when you have both, that's when you can accomplish so many great things. And so yeah, guys. So I just wanted to give you, I guess, my movie review. As I sprinkled in as well some of my thoughts when it came to this fatherhood journey, this manhood journey, right? That we're dealing with. But again, check it out. If you're like me though, you didn't like at least for me, I didn't like the Lion King, the live one with Beyonce or whatever. And maybe it's because I was comparing it to the cartoon, right? So it was already done. So since it was already done, I just, I don't know. To me, the Lion King, the cartoon one is a classic. So it's hard to top that with this one, with the Mufasa one, right? I didn't have nothing to compare to, so I could really just enjoy the movie. And for me, I thought it was pretty dope. So I encourage you, if you haven't, I definitely encourage you to check it out because it's a really good one. But with that being said, guys, you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. See you guys on the next one.